Alright guys, Manchester City have just beaten Chelsea by 3 goals to 1. And if there's anything today's game shows, it shows how far Chelsea are off reaching the Champions League this season especially. Or even they're miles off reaching a title race. Like at the start of the season they were sort of considered in it purely because of the amount of signings they made in the summer. Kai Havertz, Timo Werner, Edouard Mendy, Thiago Silva, Ben Chilwell. You get the point. But today's game, they were rubbish. To put it in one word, rubbish. Anyway, the game started off with so Timo Werner's gone past Rodri. Rodri sort of stepped inside him. I thought he got a bit of the ball, which was his saving grace, but it probably wasn't quite inside the penalty area, even though Werner did jump in the penalty area. So nothing really happened there. The first big moments of the game, João Cancelo played the ball free to Kevin De Bruyne, and you'd back De Bruyne to at least get it on target, but he put it 2 yards wide. And then Ilkay Gundogan was played sort of with his back to goal. He's got a defender to the side of him, and he's done a Cruyff turn, and he's turned inside and he's whacked it into the bottom right corner. And that made it 1-0 to Man City. And then City just scored instantly straight after that again. De Bruyne played a free ball to Phil Foden, and Phil Foden just stroked it into the bottom left corner, and Edouard Mendy had no chance reaching it. And then I think we need a discussion about N'Golo Kante, because I can't tell if the case is that he's been asked too much of himself by the manager, because of how Mason Mount's not a workhorse, is he? He's purely there to create things, and Kovacic he doesn't really do much for me. Chelsea fans claim that he's this great midfielder. I haven't seen anything that proves he's any better than Jorginho, to be honest. I mean, he gets himself about a bit more than Jorginho, but that's really about it. And Kante, to me, just doesn't look like he's as good as he was a few seasons ago with Leicester and his early career at Chelsea. He misplaced a clearance horribly, and Raheem Sterling went through on the counter-attack, and Kante had no chance of catching him up. Sterling sort of bottled it, shooting with his left foot, so cut back inside, tried to curl it into the top corner with his right, hit the post, and it came back for Kevin De Bruyne to have an easy finish. And that made it 3-0 at half-time. And it was an awful half for Chelsea, considering they spent, 230 million in the summer. It was terrible. And in the second half, it was pretty much the same to start with. Edouard Mendy made a really good save for Rodri's header from a De Bruyne free kick. Managed to tip it over the bar. And what happened from then on was City just sat back. What I've noticed about City recently is they've become a lot better defensively. I've been impressed with John Stones recently. I think he's starting to prove himself a bit more. A lot of questions have been asked of him over the past couple of years, but I think he is improving now. And eventually Chelsea sort of were putting pressure on City in the last 20 minutes, and they got one right at the end through Callum Hudson-Odoi. Mason Mount just went down the left-hand side and crossed it in for Callum Hudson-Odoi. Just had to pass it into the back of the net, really. Nothing that hard, really. And this sort of begs the question, how much of this should Frank Lampard take the blame for? And I've got to be honest, I thought he did well last season to get Chelsea into the top four with, let's say, it was a very young team. There's a lot of talent there, but it's none of them were really the finished article at all. But what I would say this season, though, is the fact that he spent money and this Chelsea team's actually got worse than last season. I think questions will soon have to be asked about Frank Lampard. Anyway, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.